In today's video, we will unravel the legendary saga of Lucifer's transformation into Satan, a tale that has profoundly shaped the cosmic and human realms. This story isn't just about the celestial rebellion. It's about the eternal battle between light and darkness that challenges our deepest beliefs about morality and freedom. Join us as this tale is presented by Mythic History, where we bring the past to life and explore the myths that continue to inspire and intrigue us all.
How Lucifer Became Satan, Chapter 1, The Lightbringer. In the celestial expanse of heaven, where eternity stretches beyond the reach of time, there dwelt Lucifer, the Lightbringer. His form was a marvel of creation, woven from the purest strands of celestial light and divine essence. His wings, vast and resplendent, shimmered with the colors of dawn. Among the host of archangels, he stood distinguished, celebrated not only for his breathtaking beauty, but also for his profound wisdom. Lucifer walked the realms of heaven, his steps bathed in a soft, ethereal glow. It was he who carried the light, a brilliant torch that never flickered nor faded, its radiance a testament to his esteemed position at the right hand of God. His voice, melodious and commanding, echoed through the heavenly vaults, a song of hope and inspiration to all who heard it. His relationship with God was one of deep affection and utmost reverence. In the divine council, where matters of cosmic importance were deliberated, Lucifer was a trusted advisor, his counsel sought after by angels and archangels alike. God, in his boundless wisdom, shared with Lucifer the workings of the universe, the delicate balance of stars and souls, entrusting him with the profound secrets of creation. Yet, for all his glory and allegiance, a seed of curiosity sprouted within Lucifer's heart. He pondered the nature of freedom and the essence of will. In the quiet moments of celestial dusk, he questioned the fabric of obedience that bound him and his brethren to divine decree. His thoughts, once harmonious with the divine will, began to drift towards uncharted territories, stirring a silent disquiet that echoed in the hidden depths of his luminous being. But in these early days, his doubts were but whispers in the grand chorus of celestial worship, easily drowned out by the symphony of unconditional adoration. Lucifer continued to bear the light, his presence a beacon of hope and guidance, his face still turned towards the divine light, yet his eyes, those bright orbs, flickered with the nascent fire of inquiry and the dawning of a new awareness. This was the Lightbringer in his prime, a figure of awe and wonder, his story not yet veiled by the shadows of what was to come. It was a time of profound peace and beauty, a remembrance of purity before the impending storm that would challenge the very foundations of heaven. Chapter 2, Seeds of Descent. In the hallowed halls of heaven, where every echo resonates with divine decree, the mind of Lucifer, once harmonious with celestial order, began to stir with unsettling thoughts. As the Lightbringer, he had witnessed the breadth of creation, from the swirling galaxies to the intricate lives of mortals. It was in observing humanity, creatures endowed with the precious gift of free will, that Lucifer's heart first knew envy. Humans, though frail and fleeting, possess the ability to choose, their destinies unwritten, their paths unbound by the rigid laws that govern celestial beings. Lucifer, amidst his duties of bearing the light and singing praises, found his thoughts increasingly occupied with the stark contrast between his existence and that of mankind. Why, he whispered into the void between stars, are those destined to perish granted freedoms denied to those who endure forever? These questions, once mere ripples on a tranquil surface, grew into waves of doubt crashing against the shore of his convictions. Lucifer's disquiet was not unnoticed. He began to share his thoughts with select angels, those whose loyalty and intellect he trusted. In the shadowed recesses of heaven, away from the all-seeing eyes, they gathered. Their meetings were filled with whispered discussions, philosophical debates that stretched into the ethereal night. They spoke of destiny, duty, and the nature of divine justice. Why should we, the firstborn of creation, be bound to obedience when mortals are free to choose even folly? Lucifer posited, his voice a blend of bitterness and longing. His words, persuasive and poignant, sowed the seeds of dissent among his followers. Some were swayed, their hearts alight with the fire of potential rebellion. Others were wary, fearful of the consequences of such forbidden contemplations. As these clandestine gatherings grew in frequency and fervor, so too did the divide within the celestial ranks. The seeds of dissent, once sown, took root in the fertile soil of unrest. The whispers became murmurs, and the murmurs in time would grow into roars. Yet, through it all, Lucifer's brilliance never waned. He continued to fulfill his duties, his outward demeanor still that of the obedient and faithful servant. Beneath this veneer, however, a storm was brewing, a storm that would soon challenge the very pillars of heaven and shake the foundations of the eternal realm. Chapter 3: Gathering Shadows. As the echoes of rebellion faded, the impact of Lucifer's fall resonated through both heaven and earth. No longer was he the Lightbringer, revered among the celestial hosts. He had become Satan, the adversary, a symbol of defiance and the embodiment of opposition. His descent into the infernal depths marked not an end, but a profound transformation that would forever alter the course of cosmic and human history. In the aftermath, heaven itself seemed to mourn. The once unbreakable facade of unity was now marred by the scars of war, a solemn reminder of what had been lost. The angels, those who had remained loyal, looked upon their duties with a new solemnity, their songs tinged with sorrow. Yet, there was also a strengthening of resolve, a renewal of commitment to uphold the divine order, bolstered by the painful lessons learned from the rebellion. On Earth, the legacy of Lucifer's fall took on a life of its own within human myth and religion. He was woven into the fabric of countless cultures, perceived through the prism of moral and existential struggles. In some tales, he was the tempter, a cunning figure who whispered of freedom and knowledge, challenging humans to question authority and seek their own path. In others, he was the fallen hero, tragic and complex, a reminder of the peril inherent in pride and ambition. The figure of Satan thus became a potent symbol in human consciousness, embodying the eternal conflict between good and evil. This duality played out in countless stories, art, and theological debates, serving as a mirror to humanity's own struggles with morality, freedom, and fate. The name of Lucifer, once synonymous with light, now invoked shadows, a dual legacy of enlightenment and enigma. As the centuries unfolded, the story of Lucifer's rebellion continued to inspire both fear and fascination. It served as a cautionary tale of the limits of ambition and the consequences of defiance, yet also as a beacon to those who dared to think differently, to challenge the status quo. In the celestial realms, the angels watched over humanity, their vigilance heightened by the knowledge of the darkness that lurked, waiting for moments of weakness to strike. The ongoing struggle between the forces of light and darkness was not only a celestial concern, but a human one, reflected in every choice, every act of defiance, and every plea for redemption. Thus, the legacy of Lucifer's rebellion became a cornerstone of cosmic balance, an eternal battle not just for the souls of mankind, but for the heart of the universe itself. The stage was set for future conflicts, each episode a reflection of that primal descent, each outcome a thread in the ever-unfolding tapestry of existence. Chapter 4: The Great Divide. The celestial realms trembled as the day of reckoning approached, the day when Lucifer would no longer whisper his dissent but proclaim it loudly before the celestial court. It was a day foretold by none, feared by some, and awaited with a silent dread by others. The halls of judgment, usually resplendent with divine light, were heavy with anticipation, the air thick with the weight of impending decisions. Lucifer, once the bearer of light, now the harbinger of division, stood at the center of the celestial amphitheater. His figure, though still radiant, was marked by a resolute defiance that had not been there before. The assembly of angels, archangels, and seraphim gathered, their luminous forms a stark contrast to the growing shadows of discord. With a voice that resonated through the ethereal expanses, Lucifer presented his case. He spoke of freedom, of justice, and of the right of all celestial beings to self-determination. "Why?" he implored, looking into the eyes of his brethren. Are we, the first and most faithful of God's creations, denied the freedoms bestowed upon the least of us? His words echoed not just in the hall, but in the hearts of many who had harbored silent questions. The celestial court listened, divided in their hearts. Some gazed upon Lucifer with sorrow, others with dawning awareness. Among them, Michael, the Archangel, stood as the counterpoint to Lucifer's arguments. With equal passion but grounded in loyalty, Michael defended the divine order, advocating for obedience and the acceptance of divine wisdom without question. As the debate intensified, the divide among the angels widened. Lines were drawn, not just in the celestial sands but in the very souls of the angelic host. The tension was palpable, the silence that followed each argument filled with the weight of unspoken fears and unyielded convictions. Finally, the moment came when the celestial court was to make its judgment. But before a verdict could be pronounced, Lucifer, with a mix of triumph and tragedy in his eyes, turned away from the throne, his decision made. He would not wait for a judgment that he knew would never favor his cause. One by one, a fraction of the angels rose. These were they who chose to stand with Lucifer, moved by his words or by their own hidden desires. They gathered behind him, a formidable host, their luminous grace now tinged with the colors of rebellion. Thus was the great divide cemented, a schism that split heaven itself into factions of light and shadow. The celestial court, once a symbol of unity and divine authority, stood as a witness to the greatest descent ever known. From this day forth, the path of every angel was irrevocably altered, their fates intertwined with the consequences of this unprecedented rebellion. Chapter 5: War in Heaven. As the great divide split heaven, the once serene and harmonious realm transformed into a battlefield, setting the stage for an unprecedented celestial conflict, the war in heaven. The very fabric of the divine was strained as brother turned against brother, each side driven by a conviction as deep as their immortal essence. Lucifer, now a figure of rebellion, commanded his followers with a strategist's acumen. His legion, though outnumbered, was formidable, comprised of some of the mightiest angels who had chosen to question the status quo. They employed guerrilla tactics, leveraging their intimate knowledge of heaven's terrains, its secret passageways and hidden dimensions, striking swiftly and retreating into the mists before a counterattack could be mounted. On the other side, Michael the Archangel led the loyalist forces with unyielding resolve. His strategies were rooted in discipline and power, maintaining a defensive posture that protected the critical realms of heaven, including the gates of paradise and the throne room itself. Michael's forces were well organized, moving in precise formations that mirrored the order they sought to protect. The battles were unlike any known to mortal eyes, with clashes of ethereal weapons that rang out like thunder and flashes of divine light that illuminated the darkened skies. Each encounter was not only a physical confrontation, but a battle of wills, as both sides sought to assert their vision for all of creation. Amid the chaos, individual feats of bravery and tragedy unfolded. Angels who had once sung together now exchanged blows, their celestial armor clashing with the force of their convictions. The air was filled with the sounds of combat, the cries of the fallen, and the rallying calls of those still fighting. The once pristine landscapes of heaven were scarred by the energies unleashed, a testament to the intensity of the conflict. Strategically, Lucifer attempted to isolate key loyalist leaders, hoping to diminish the morale of his adversaries. Meanwhile, Michael focused on preserving the unity of his forces, rallying them with reminders of their sacred duty to uphold divine will. The battle saw many turns, with neither side gaining a clear advantage, the balance shifting with each heart-stirring charge and tactical retreat. As the war dragged on, it became clear that the outcome would not be decided by might alone, but by the endurance of spirit and conviction. Each side was fueled by a deep-seated belief in their cause, driving them forward through the celestial maelstrom. The climax of the conflict approached a final confrontation that would either restore the old order or irrevocably change heaven forever. This battle would determine not just the fate of the rebellious and the loyalist angels, but the very nature of divine governance across the cosmos. Chapter 6: Fall from Grace. As the celestial conflict reached its zenith, the battlefields of heaven, once radiant with divine light, were now marred by the scars of war. The air, thick with the energy of unleashed powers and the echoes of angelic cries, set the stage for the final confrontation. It was here, amid the torn skies and shattered realms, that Lucifer and his followers made their last stand. Despite their valor and cunning, the rebel angels found themselves outmatched. The loyalist forces, bolstered by divine decree and unwavering in their resolve, slowly turned the tide. Michael, leading from the front, proved to be an immovable pillar of strength. His strategy to consolidate the loyalist power and focus on key strategic points in heaven ultimately cornered the rebels, leaving them with dwindling options. Lucifer, once the bearer of light, now stood as the leader of the doomed revolt. As the reality of their imminent defeat set in, a profound transformation began to take hold of him. The once resplendent archangel, whose beauty and wisdom were unrivaled, now found his very essence being altered by his choices and the consequences they wrought. His luminous form, a symbol of his high status, began to dim, the light that once radiated so purely from him flickering under the shadow of defeat. The physical manifestation of his fall was dramatic. His once glorious wings, symbols of his angelic grace, became tattered and ashen, reflecting the inner corruption and despair that ate at his spirit. His celestial armor, which had shone with the promise of divine protection, was now tarnished, mirroring the defeat and degradation he experienced. Emotionally and spiritually, the fall was catastrophic. Lucifer, who had stood at the right hand of God, who had been a trusted advisor and beloved leader, now experienced the ultimate separation from the divine love he had once known. The sense of loss was overwhelming, not just for Lucifer, but for all his followers. They shared in the profound grief of separation, their celestial bond to the divine source severed, leaving them adrift in a tumult of spiritual agony. As the final decree was passed, Lucifer and his followers were cast out of heaven. The expulsion, witnessed by all in heaven, was a somber spectacle. They fell through the celestial layers, a descent not just through space, but through states of being, each layer stripping them further of their heavenly attributes until they reached their new abode, hell. In hell, Lucifer's transformation was complete. The environment reflected his internal state, fiery, desolate, and harsh. Here, he would rise again, not as the Lightbringer, but as Satan, the adversary. This new identity was shaped by his rebellion and fall, embodying defiance and resilience in the face of eternal damnation. Thus, the once mighty Lucifer assumed his new role with a complex legacy, a tragic hero to some, a dire villain to others. His fall from grace was not just a punishment, it was a birth of a new force in the cosmos, setting the stage for millennia of legends, fears, and theological discourse. Chapter 7. Rise of the Adversary. Cast into the depths of hell, Lucifer found himself in a realm entirely alien to the celestial purity of heaven. The landscapes of hell were harsh and forbidding, with jagged mountains piercing sulfurous skies and lakes of fire that burned without consuming. This desolate domain, now his kingdom, mirrored the darkness that had taken root in his own spirit. As he surveyed his new dominion, Lucifer underwent a profound acceptance of his fate. The identity of Lucifer, the Lightbringer, had been extinguished in the eyes of heaven, and in its place rose Satan, the adversary. This name was not just a title, but a mantle, heavy with the weight of his rebellion and the role he now played in the cosmic balance. Satan embraced his role with a complex mixture of regret and resolve. The memories of his time in heaven, of light, of harmony, and of divine proximity, were painful yet poignant, serving as constant reminders of what had been sacrificed. Yet, these memories also reinforced his resolve, affirming the reasons for his rebellion. He pondered the freedom he had sought for himself and his followers, the right to question and to choose, even if that choice led to damnation. In the fiery pits and dark caverns of hell, Satan began to assert his authority, transforming the realm to suit his needs and those of his fallen angels. He forged a kingdom as structured and formidable as the one they had left, but based on very different principles, ones of autonomy, strength, and defiance. As he settled into his rule, Satan reflected on the irreversible consequences of his actions. His fall had indeed altered the course of history, not just for himself and his followers, but for all of creation. It had introduced into the world concepts of evil and temptation, altering the human experience by introducing the struggle between good and evil into their lives. This role of tempter was one that Satan adopted not out of malice, but as a continuation of his challenge to the divine order, to provoke thought and choice. Satan's identity as the adversary thus took on layers of complexity. He was not merely a villain in the cosmic narrative, but a necessary force that challenged the unyielding order of the divine. His presence allowed for the testing of virtues, the strengthening of resolve, and the evolution of spirit through the trials he would pose. From the depths of hell, Satan looked upon the world above, his thoughts often returning to the celestial realms he once roamed. He knew his actions had set into motion a series of events that would forever oscillate between salvation and damnation. This duality, born of his rebellion, now defined his existence and would continue to influence the destinies of both angels and mankind for eternity. Chapter 8: Legacy of Rebellion. As the echoes of rebellion faded, the impact of Lucifer's fall resonated through both heaven and earth. No longer was he the Lightbringer, revered among the celestial hosts. He had become Satan, the adversary, a symbol of defiance and the embodiment of opposition. His descent into the infernal depths marked not an end, but a profound transformation that would forever alter the course of cosmic and human history. In the aftermath, heaven itself seemed to mourn. The once unbreakable facade of unity was now marred by the scars of war, a solemn reminder of what had been lost. The angels, those who had remained loyal, looked upon their duties with a new solemnity, their songs tinged with sorrow. Yet, there was also a strengthening of resolve, a renewal of commitment to uphold the divine order, bolstered by the painful lessons learned from the rebellion. On Earth, the legacy of Lucifer's fall took on a life of its own within human myth and religion. He was woven into the fabric of countless cultures, perceived through the prism of moral and existential struggles. In some tales, he was the tempter, a cunning figure who whispered of freedom and knowledge, challenging humans to question authority and seek their own path. In others, he was the fallen hero, tragic and complex, a reminder of the peril inherent in pride and ambition. The figure of Satan thus became a potent symbol in human consciousness, embodying the eternal conflict between good and evil. This duality played out in countless stories, art, and theological debates, serving as a mirror to humanity's own struggles with morality, freedom, and fate. The name of Lucifer, once synonymous with light, now invoked shadows, a dual legacy of enlightenment and enigma. As the centuries unfolded, the story of Lucifer's rebellion continued to inspire both fear and fascination. It served as a cautionary tale of the limits of ambition and the consequences of defiance, yet also as a beacon to those who dared to think differently, to challenge the status quo. In the celestial realms, the angels watched over humanity, their vigilance heightened by the knowledge of the darkness that lurked, waiting for moments of weakness to strike. The ongoing struggle between the forces of light and darkness was not only a celestial concern, but a human one, reflected in every choice, every act of defiance, and every plea for redemption. Thus, the legacy of Lucifer's rebellion became a cornerstone of cosmic balance, an eternal battle not just for the souls of mankind, but for the heart of the universe itself. The stage was set for future conflicts, each episode a reflection of that primal descent, each outcome a thread in the ever-unfolding tapestry of existence.